Hello, Blazers. Welcome to episode 167 of UAB Green and Told, originally released on Monday, January 12th, 2026. Through this podcast, we bring you the stories from the UAB community. Listen to previous episodes of the most listened to podcasts on campus at alumni.uab.edu/greenandtold, on Spotify, or the Apple Podcast app. Leave a review to help more alums find us. I'm Greg Berry, a UAB alum and Director of Communications in the Office of Alumni Affairs. It takes a village to raise a child, but what happens when that village is halfway across the world? Matthew Norris didn't just move, he was moved. One day, his life was completely rewritten. From the dusty roads of Uganda to the chalkboard-lined classrooms of Alabama, his story is stitched with resilience, heart, and a story that's anything but ordinary. As he'll share, before life changed forever, Matthew lived in a world few can imagine, one shaped by hardship and held together by the quiet strength of a remarkable woman.
If poverty had a basement, I was basically in it. So my grandmother, she was basically my caretaker, and this is when I moved to the city. She was blind for as long as I could remember, meaning she couldn't see, and then she had one leg.
Years later, standing in front of his own classroom, Matthew found himself reflecting on the road that led him there. It wasn't planned. It unfolded in all the right ways.
It's definitely God written, like no man can dream it up. If I was given a pen, it wouldn't look like this.
And when he stepped into that classroom for the very first time, the moment hit him like a wave, equal parts surreal and sacred.
It didn't make sense. I'm not really supposed to be here.
The sun didn't just rise over Uganda, it rose over a boy whose life would defy every expectation. Raised by a grandmother who couldn't see the world but helped him envision the future, Matthew Norris's journey didn't follow a script. It unfolded with grit and a rhythm all its own. But before his adoption, before a classroom and chalkboards, life looked very different.
Back home, you literally grow up in the same area, like you don't go anywhere. And then you marry the girl who's been next door for the longest time. And so I hadn't seen much, even of my own country. I think when I was younger, I lived in like the villages. I think maybe like around the age of 6 or 7, I was sent to live in the city with my grandmother, which is actually where I met my dad. My dad, his name is Randy. That's where I met him, and then the adoption thing happened. And so I hadn't seen too much of the world. I haven't seen too much of even my own country. I've probably seen more of it now that I've been here and then I've gone back. But no, I hadn't seen much of it.
What was the little Matthew like in Uganda?
Little Matthew, he was very joyous. And I would say that's probably not something that's left me, but I was like very inquisitive, very intrigued. I loved learning. I wasn't good at it by any means, but I loved it. And I think mostly for the social aspect, I think school for little Matthew was kind of an escape, honestly, sometimes from reality. Not that, poverty wasn't a thing when you went to school, but it was like, okay, it was a thing together with my friends, or things along that line. I love to play outside. I mean, like backflips, you name it. Like that was the life of just doing anything outside. We would play from basically since you wake up until basically the moon went down. So we always loved the season where the moon was like fully bright, because that allowed us more time outside. You got to think about poverty, right? Most of the times we don't have electricity in the house, right? So what do? Well, when there's the moon, I'm being afforded a little more time outside. And so even things like that are things that we would have to kind of, think about. But little Matthew was very much, honestly, not much has changed now that I think about it, because I still enjoy all those things. And I mean, it does make sense. It kind of does make sense why I ended up in education. So
when you found out you were getting adopted,
yeah,
what were your impressions at that point of the United States? Did you have preconceived notions?
Yeah, I mean, just like any person when it comes to anything. So a little before, so when I was back home, I lived with my grandmother. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Now here's kind of the reality of the poverty. You think about poverty. If poverty had a basement, I was basically in it. So my grandmother, she was basically my caretaker, and this is when I moved to the city. And so later on, when I moved to the city, she's who I lived with. But she was blind for as long as I could remember, meaning she couldn't see. And then she had one leg. I think half of the other one had been cut off because, again, within poverty, sometimes it's easier to amputate than to, keep going back and over and over and over again for surgeries and stuff like that. But as far as like thinking about coming to the U.S., I remember when I was being told I was being adopted. I didn't really know actually what that meant. Now I did speak English, but some words you have no need for, and so that was one of them. It's like, oh, what does that mean? And even when they explained it to me, I was like, oh, I'm going to the US. I'm going to go check it out. And then I'm going to come back home. Like, that kind of thing. But then when the reality of it hit me, I was like, oh, this is what we're doing, right? We're going over there to be there for life. And you gotta think too that there was probably a kind of like nervousness and scariness. Like, man, everything I've ever known is about to, it's about to look different. And now within that, there was also a lot of excitement of like, shoot, I'm about to see so much that I haven't ever seen. Like, I remember when the few times that I would get to like see TV, you see like a cool little toy. Well, they probably have that in America, or this and that. They probably have that in America. And so it was a mix. It was definitely a mix of so many things I've never seen, so many things I've never experienced. And then so many things that I'm leaving behind. Like, man, I loved our food. I didn't get enough of it, but it was so good. And things like that. As far as just like what the country would look like, I was really like, I was shocked when I got here and you guys had trees. I thought there would be no trees. That was one that I was like, oh, they do have it, just because of, if you ever watch a movie, like most of them take place in cities and stuff like that. And so that's where most of my information had come about. But
Do you remember that moment you first set foot on American ground?
yes. So where I come from, I mean, the temperatures are pretty fair, like year round. I mean, you get your 80s and you're good. Like if it's like 70 something, we got jackets on. I remember getting here, landing actually, and it was freezing. I think we came in January. And it was freezing. I mean, even walking from the plane like into the building, I mean, the wind could blow me over. I was so small. I mean, I was 13 weighing like 60 something pounds. Like it was no good. And then I remember, so my dad being a pastor, my family had a lot of friends, and there was a lot of people just there to welcome us as we came. I remember just like a whole lot of faces, like so many people I didn't know. And I just clung tight to the people who had brought me over here, and I trusted that they would take care of me, and they always have. And so, I mean, it's been a beautiful journey, seriously.
You mentioned you were still the same joyous person as you were when you were growing up in Uganda. How
Mm,
did you change though? Surely there was some transition, some shift in the way you
sure.
approached life.
I couldn't make sense of life, and now I think it's one thing to live in poverty when everyone is in poverty. Meaning, when I was there, well, yeah, things weren't well, but that was the same for my neighbor and their neighbor and their neighbor. And then you get to America, and it's like the flip opposite. It's like, whoa, like this is what life could look like. And even this is part of the reason why when I first got here, it was a little harder for me to believe and trust in the Lord, because I was like, wait. All these people are, but my dad being a pastor, I was going to church all the time, but like I was like, all these people are telling me that, God is good, He's loving, He's fair, He does all these things. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, of course you think so, right? Look at the life you got. Like, look at it. Just take a look. You have not seen reality for what it is, and so through meeting the Lord, I would say a lot of my motives behind things changed. And so it wasn't that I was just joyous because just for the sake of it. I was joyous in the Lord. Now, the things that did frustrate me a lot of times were, and honestly, still sometimes this does happen. Of man, like you walk into a house, and you flip a little switch, and the light comes on, or same thing for water, as opposed to going miles and miles and getting it, or you have more clothes than you know what to do. I think even to this day, like I think throughout a week I wear the same like 5 pairs of clothes, just because in my mind I'm just like, one more, why, how many more do I need? I did change a lot. I started looking at life more of from the perspective of like you can sit here and complain, but look where I've gotten you. I think perspective has changed, life isn't necessarily about even like material things. Like as much as I love all the clothes and the carpet on the floor and the house and things like that, there's so much more to life than that. Like there's like so much more. And even as I teach these days and my students ask me questions about Africa, and I'm like, yeah, it's awesome that you have these things, but there's so much more to life. Like play the sports, enjoy the sports, but make sure the things that actually do matter are the things that you're taking care of.
You brought up teaching. Why did you want to become a teacher?
Oh, that's an easy one. And actually, I think, let's see, I got here, I did fifth grade, then I went to sixth grade. By seventh grade, by middle school, I'll say by the end of middle school, I knew I wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
Just because like we've back home they've always said like there were sayings like you can never be too old for an education, or a lot of things in life can be taken away from you by your education. And so like you know if the means are there, like you would find old people in education back home just because it's like, yes, I'm gonna get my education, right? And so when I got here, and I always thought about just how much my friends would give to like get an education, even like I'm talking like primary to 12, like K to 12, like they would give anything for that. And I was just here receiving it. And not even just that, like you actually have to go to school in America. Like you have to go and complete K through 12 versus back home. If if you finish eighth grade, the equivalent of eighth grade, you're like blessed. And so it was a no-brainer. And also too, I think I like the aspect of like everyone has a teacher, not necessarily that it's got to be academic, but like that's how knowledge is passed down and the things that people need to learn. So there was really only one way for me to go. And two, like I think about just like the younger years of just how difficult they can be. Um, and I think especially like starting middle school, those years can be a lot. And just being someone that, kids can look up to, especially boys, because I don't think there's enough role models for boys these days. Just for them to, to kind of a canvas for them to kind of, look at the world and also kind of have someone to measure it against, and be able to see that it's all possible. It's really been an awesome journey. Like it's definitely God written. Like no man can dream it up. If I was given a pen, it wouldn't look like this. It would be filled with a lot of things that are selfish and, every kind of nonsense you can think of.
Why middle school? You said it was a no-brainer to teach, but why middle school?
I think for me, as especially now that I'm still on the younger side, I think it's really cool for the younger boys because again, nothing wrong. I think ladies do a beautiful job of like taking care of everything, but like I think even more than half of the students I had have never had a male teacher before. And so just like being standing in the gap for for the boys and the girls too. Just like standing in the gap of like, hey, you can be so much more. You're so much better than this. Like, no, no, no. This is what men do. This is how men treat people. This is, this and this. Even things apart from academic, because like I know they watched more than they would like for you to know. Like there are some questions this year that my students have asked me, and the reality is they probably haven't had, many people to to ask. And you think about where they're coming from, a lot of them are coming from broken homes. That's a very unique responsibility that the Lord gives, and I want to make sure that I'm stewarding it as well as I can. And so middle school was definitely a no-brainer just because I don't know. They got someone who's cheering them on, like someone who's on their side. Like there's like my students know that there is nothing I can do to make Mr. Norris mad at me to where like we can't get past it. Like even when we have like disagreements, because some of those guys, man, they like to defend themselves, and I'm like, that's okay. But remember, when you come back tomorrow, it's all gone. Like we're starting new, and and it's nice to honestly, it's nice to even as adults to have people like that in your life too. It's like, okay, one little mishap is not gonna define our whole entire relationship. Like I'm still cheering you on despite the fact that, ABC. So, oh my gosh, like I have loved my first year of teaching. I think there's doing the things that the Lord has designed you to do, but then there's also doing the things that you want to do. And I think being a teacher is like a merging of those two things. It's not like just like I'm doing one, but I'm doing what He's called me to, but I'm also doing what I would want to do, even apart from. It has been so sweet, like actually, to just like wake up and know that I'm going to do what I was made for, and there's no greater joy, seriously, in life than to kind of mentor and look out for those guys and teach them too. So I do love the middle schoolers.
Did you always know you were going to be a math teacher, or did that come later?
Actually, I hated math. Like math, I don't care what anyone says, math is not universal. Like just because it's numbers and it's all very similar is not universal. I remember struggling, um, especially in high school, in middle school too, but high school math kicked my tail. I remember doing pre-cal, and I was a very hardworking student. Like I said, I knew my friends would work hard if they were here, so I was always hardworking. But man, some of those classes just kicked my tail. And now because it was really hard, I kind of found an appreciation of, oh, like, but there's an answer, like there's an answer at the end of this. If I just like really work and exhaust all my options, I can get to an answer. And so I think right before I was actually graduating, I would have done English, I would have done any subjects just because my certification is also K through 6. So I'm not like I'm secondary. But I would have done anything. But once I taught math, I was like, wait a second, like this is it. This is the one. And so, and I do know that a lot of students struggle with math and they think that they're not math people, and kind of reversing that culture of like it's actually not that. You just gotta look at it differently, or maybe this isn't making sense. And even when I think about my like ESL students who are coming from other countries and maybe like some of the prompts don't make sense, I'm like, wait, I can understand why it doesn't make sense because a prompt says an elevator goes to 45 feet in the air. Well, they're still struggling to figure out what is an elevator. So being able to look and know, it's like, wait, they may not fully understand the problem because they don't even understand, just one of the words, and being able to change that up and make it to where it's like something maybe similar to home or something like that. So I'd say my background, having been a foreign student myself, also does help in that way.
I never thought about it that way, and that's a really cool aspect of your job. You're able to use that and teach the next generation of
Yes, sir.
students. That's
Yes,
cool.
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm kind of backtracking because we talked
Sure.
about teaching, we talked
Yeah.
about kind of getting to math. We haven't talked about how you got to UAB. How'd you get to UAB? Did you always know once you got to the States, you were here for a few years, you know what, Birmingham, I'm just going to stay home?
I like my parents. And so UAB is literally like a 25-minute drive from my house. And so I just commuted back and forth. And there's a lot to UAB. There's jobs everywhere for those who want to work. There's really a lot of good opportunities, but my favorite thing was how proximal it is to just where I live. And I was gonna I mean I was that was it was a no-brainer for me. And so especially too because like, I went to Hoover and I think our graduation was at UAB and things like that. And so it was just like, oh, it's always been there. Like, why wouldn't I go there?
With the first year of teaching behind you, how do you approach the second year? Do you do things a little differently? Do you fine tune?
I loved my first year. If I could teach like that again, honestly, obviously there's some things that would change, but as far as like, especially relationship with students, wouldn't change a thing. And they probably would tell me, please don't change a thing. But as far as how to take on the next school year, I think obviously there was so much more to learn from the first year. I think things to think about are like, okay, you have a year, you know what you're teaching, you know the content even more. Like, how do you get the most out of them? Like, even more than last year, how can I get the most out of my students? Now, saying that also, schools do change some stuff. Like, the schedules are not going to be the same as last year. So, like, there's still a lot of figuring out and things like that. But I would say the framework is there of you know what you're teaching and you understand the kids pretty well. What like how do you get the most out of it? I think every year the goal is, okay, I got a lot of out of them last year. How do I even squeeze more out of them? Like how can I push them further this year than I did last year? And I think that's probably the biggest goal of this coming year of, okay, yes, they did sixth grade and they did well and they were successful, but like how do I push them even further? And if that means like push them a little into seventh grade, like how do I do that? How can I get more out of them?
Knowing your background and where you've been, when you set foot into the classroom for the first time, your own classroom,
Mm.
what was the sense of accomplishment like?
That's a really good question. I think the very first day I walked into my class, I just sat there and prayed, and I said, Lord, let this be everything it's supposed to be. Yes, I want to do my job well. I want to steward this place that you've given me. Let it be what it is. Let the students know that no one cares more about them than Mr. Norris. And I even remember thinking to myself of certain strategies of like, okay, care more about the students than the activities. Like the activities are gonna get done. They will eventually get done. Care about the students more. But as far as like what did I think when I think about where I'd been, I mean it didn't make sense. I'm not really supposed to be here.
That's Matthew Norris. He graduated from the School of Education and Human Sciences in 2024 with a BS in elementary education. Today, he's a proud educator in Helena, Alabama, shaping one student at a time. From village roots to classroom leadership, Matthew embodies resilience, purpose, and pride, and has a great idea of what it means to be a Blazer.
Go Dragons, come on. I'm telling you, I loved my time at UAB. I love gold and green. That's it. I think I remember, in fact, when one of the first few times I was touring the college when they were showing me around. One of the first few things I did was run to the store real quick because I had to get my colors in. And even to this day, I have a hat. I think I have 3 shirts, 1 gold and 2 green, and then I have my hat that's full on green. It's got the little dragon logo and everything. And even to this day, I still wear them out. And so I'm a Blazer forever. I'm grateful for my time there and for my degree there, seriously. And so I can't imagine having gone anywhere else. It's home.
That's it for this episode of UAB Green and Told. Want to hear more inspiring stories? Head to alumni.uab.edu/green and told or find us on Spotify and the Apple Podcast app. Know someone with a great story? Send your suggestions to greenandtold@uab.edu. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected with the Blazers. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Blazers.